Ladies and gentlemen of the media, first let me say thank you for coming to this event today. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the Commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Safety and Department of Homeland Security, Commissioner Bill Gibbons.
Well, thank you very much, and thank all of you for being here today. It's my pleasure to also have with me today Commissioner John Schroer of the Department of Transportation, Colonel Tracy Trott, head of the Highway Patrol, and Director Kendall Poole of the Governor's Highway Safety Office. Today we are reminding the public that seatbelt fines will increase as of January 1st of next year. First offenses will be $25. Second and subsequent offenses will be $50. What we hope is that as a result of this increase in seatbelt fines, people will be encouraged to simply wear their seatbelts. So far this year, we have lost 307 lives on our roadways because people chose not to wear their seatbelts. During the holiday travel season and throughout the year, we feel it is important to continue to make safe choices when traveling on Tennessee's roadways or wherever you may be traveling. I think, as all of you know, in the Highway Patrol, we really focused on data-driven deployment of our state troopers to try to make sure they're in the right places at the right times to have the maximum impact on traffic fatalities. And part of that is vigorous enforcement of our seatbelt law. So far this year, state troopers have issued over 107 seatbelt citations. To put that a little bit in perspective, that's a 255% increase over the same time period in 2010, and it reflects the proactive stance that our state troopers are taking. We will continue to make seatbelt enforcement a priority, but we hope the day will come. We hope the day will come when it is difficult for a trooper to find a motorist not wearing a seatbelt. We're not there yet, but we hope that the tougher fines taking effect as of January 1st will encourage motorists to obey the law. Under Governor Haslam's administration, traffic safety has been our top priority within the Department of Safety and Homeland Security and within the Highway Patrol. And since taking office, since Governor Haslam took office, we have seen a very significant decrease in traffic fatalities. We're encouraged by that. Part of that is vigorous enforcement of our seatbelt laws as well as our DUI laws, and we hope to continue this trend. This will continue to be one of our top priorities. I'm proud of the efforts of the Tennessee Highway Patrol, and under the direction of Colonel Trott, we have saved lives on Tennessee roadways. Our troopers are committed to making sure that our citizens arrive at their destinations safely. So I encourage all citizens to be safe and have a wonderful holiday season. And now it's my pleasure to introduce a true partner and friend in this effort, Commissioner of the Department of Transportation, John Schroer. After Commissioner Schroer, you'll hear from Colonel Trott of the Highway Patrol. After that, Director Kendall Poole of the Governor's Highway Safety Office.
Well, thank you, and I'll just quickly follow up with what Commissioner Gibbons said. So 14% of Tennesseans today don't wear their seatbelts. That's it's a good number. We're moving in the right direction, but as he mentioned, over 300 fatalities this year because people were not wearing their seatbelts. And while I'm very encouraged that the fees for violation fees have gone up, it's $25 to $50. That has nothing to do with the cost of not wearing a seatbelt, which if something were to happen seriously, the cost to your family from an emotional standpoint is unrecoverable. And so we really want to push this season, the holiday season, make sure everybody buckles up, make sure they wear their seatbelts, make sure they get to their destination and get home safely. It's a critical thing that we're doing. Our partnership is great. We've introduced many things within our department to help. One of them I'm really proud of is our Protect a Queue program. We have reduced secondary accidents by almost 40% in 2 years, and that's a huge number and had saved many, many, many lives. So we're working together to get the goal towards 0 deaths. We won't ever reach that, but we're moving forward, and with the help of Governor Haslam and Commissioner Gibbons and Colonel Trott, we're making ground on it. So thank everybody very much for coming, and I hope everybody has a happy Christmas and holiday season.
Well, I would like to thank Commissioner Gibbons and Commissioner Schroer for their support. Certainly makes my job much easier when I have people like that who have the same priorities that I do. We are dedicated to saving as many lives as possible on Tennessee roadways, and that's why we asked the legislature to approve this fine increase. We didn't do it haphazardly. We studied other states where there had been minimum increases in the fine and what the result of that increase was. And in each state, they saw a significant increase in their usage rate of seatbelts and a significant drop in their fatality rate. We hope that it does the same thing for Tennessee. We will also use other strategies over the holiday weekend, such as our no refusal law that was enacted several years ago, where people who are arrested for DUI are required to take a chemical test to determine their blood alcohol content. If they refuse, a warrant will be issued to take that sample. We want everybody to have a safe holiday. We want you to arrive alive. We care about you in the Highway Patrol. We talk about a lot of numbers, hundreds of deaths every year. We talk about number of arrests, 107,000 seatbelt tickets, in 1 year. Those are big numbers. And I don't want it to be lost on the public that every death is personal to us. We care about the people that drive on our roadways, and we want to make sure that they are safe. No death is acceptable to us. And when we say drive to zero, we mean driving to zero, because I don't want to give up anybody in my circle of family or friends, and I don't want you to have to do it either. So we're going to work our hardest over the holiday weekends and days ahead. We are very appreciative of the legislature for giving us the tool of the increased fine. I'll add that the fine does not go to the Department of Safety. We're not making any money off this law change. It goes into the general fund and for vocational rehab, just where it always has. So we don't see any financial benefit. We do it for one purpose, to have people buckle up and save their life. And that's what we'll be concentrating over the holiday weekend. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I think everyone knows by now that our mission in the Governor's Highway Safety Office is to reduce crashes and save lives. And when you stand with partners like we do here today, I can safely say that that's their mission as well, to reduce crashes and save lives. And you've already heard from Commissioner Gibbons and Commissioner Schroer and Colonel Trott who've expressed that. A lot of people don't know that in the Governor's Highway Safety Office, we are required by federal law to perform an observational seatbelt survey every year. And we did that in 2014. In 2014, we had our all-time highest seatbelt usage rate of 87.7%. That's across the state of Tennessee. This year in 2015, we were a little bit alarmed to see that we had dropped about 1.5 percentage points to 86.2. Now that's far better than we were years ago, but a decrease of 1.5 percentage points represents tens of thousands of Tennesseans. So when you talk about tens of thousands of Tennesseans not wearing their seatbelt, that's pretty alarming to us. And that's one of the reasons why we supported the increase in the fine. As Colonel Trott said, not to pad the county or state coffers in what we're doing, but simply to save lives. Let's talk a little bit about pickup trucks. Pickup trucks across the state have continued to show the lowest rate of usage. In fact, they're 8 percentage points behind a normal vehicle that would be out there. So pickup trucks are very important to us, much easier to roll over. Ejection, the chance of ejection is much greater in a pickup truck, so we want to continue to really try to educate pickup truck drivers across the state of Tennessee. One thing that we saw this year in our study alarmed us greatly as well, and that's the decrease in seatbelt usage in vans. So vans was down 5% this year. And if you want to break it down by gender, males driving vans in urban areas is not a really good stat for us. Much like males in pickup trucks in rural areas is not a good stat for us. So again, we have to continue to try to educate the public, and obviously enforcement is there to back that up. One of the things about vans that strikes us as well is we're really dedicated to child passenger safety. So when you talk about car seats, we know that only 2 out of 10 car seats are actually only utilized properly for the proper restraint. So if you see a van, well, makes a lot of sense that there might be car seats in a van as well. So we're continually concerned with child passenger safety. Let's talk in general about seatbelt usage before I finish. Men are less likely to buckle up than women. Women are about 90%. Men are about 82.5 across the state. Tennesseans in urban areas buckle up at about 88.4%. In rural areas, it is 84.8. So again, much less in rural areas. And what that tells us is, whether you've been driving roads, you've been driving your entire life, and you're comfortable, you always have to buckle up every trip, every time. Every trip, no matter what the distance is, could save your life in doing that. If you look back, and all of our fatalities nationwide just a couple of years ago, if everyone had been wearing a seatbelt, we would have saved 3,000 more lives across the United States. That's what's important to us, and that's what we know in Tennessee. So again, we want everyone to have a safe and happy holiday season. We want everyone to understand that Click It or Ticket really means something to us in the state, and we want as many folks to be driving the road safely as they possibly can in Tennessee. Thank you.
Now, I'd be glad to take any questions that the media has, and I'll try to direct every question to the right person.
I guess talk about, you talk about there's more fatalities, but, and just a regular, not a serious wreck, having your seatbelt not on can lead to, further injury. I mean, significant injury, every wreck's different, but, just
Right.
talk about the
I think Director Poole is volunteering to, I think there was a question there somewhere, so Director Poole.
somewhere.
All right, so when we talk about the cost to society, when we talk about not wearing our seatbelts, think about all of the EMS costs. Think about the congestion cost when we start talking about protect the queue. Start thinking about legal fees. You start thinking about clearance of the roads, on and on and on and on. And the cost to society is amazing. In fact, I was looking over some stats earlier, and it says the United States failure to wear a seatbelt, $10 billion is the cost when you factor in all of those things. That's every man, woman, and child paying an additional $32 every year in the United States for somebody to failure to wear a seatbelt. So I think that's what you're getting at is the total economic cost, not only in Tennessee, but across the United States.
Other questions?
I guess the debate's already been had about raising the amount of it for a ticket, but why will money change anything?
Well, hopefully it will be one more tool in the toolbox to serve as a deterrent for those who have been violating the law so far. Hopefully it will get that 14% that is failing to wear seatbelts to think twice about it. It's not maybe much money in the cosmic scheme of things, but on the other hand, it's just one more tool to help motorists think about it and to hopefully change their behavior and ride their seatbelt and use their seatbelts. Another big factor is the continued vigorous enforcement by our state troopers as well as local law enforcement of our seatbelt law. So it's a combination of vigorous enforcement plus an additional fine, and taken together, we believe that seatbelt usage will go up. And as I believe Colonel Trott mentioned, that has been the impact in other states. So we expect that impact here as well. Colonel, do you want to add anything to that? Or?
We studied 4 different states who had enacted very similar fines that we're doing, just a minimal fine increase, and their usage rate went up between 4 and 11%. So that would represent quite a few injury accidents that would be avoided and quite a few fatalities also. So that's what we're trying to do. We're looking for voluntary compliance. We're not looking to make money. We're looking for voluntary compliance. And if we can get our seatbelt usage rate up into the low and mid 90s, then our fatality rate is going to naturally go downward.
And how do you enforce this? I've always wondered about the seatbelt. Do you just take their word for it? Were you wearing a seatbelt? I mean, how can you tell?
No, we do a lot of things that help us tell. I mean, we started buying Ford Explorer patrol cars for one thing that have a little higher perch and allow our people on the highways to see down into the cars a little bit better to see if people are wearing a seatbelt. Troopers develop a skill that they're patrolling. They can see if the belt is over the shoulder from behind. We do roadblocks and different type of saturation activities where we see people at slow speeds at intersections and exit ramps and things like that, so we can get a visual sighting of whether they're wearing a seatbelt or not. And the crash scene, it's pretty easy to tell whether they've been wearing a seatbelt just by the injuries to the person. So there's a lot of different ways we enforce the law. We use vehicles like a tractor trailer riding down the interstate, looking at other tractor trailers and other vehicles. Our motorcycles that we have here today are some of the greatest enforcement tools that we have for the motorcycle, for the seatbelt law. They can ride right up next to a car. They can see the driver very clearly. These guys develop great skills in doing that, and they're one of our most effective tools.
And what about enforcement on, I mean, I imagine you could write tickets for drivers not wearing a seatbelt all day long, spend your whole day doing that. I mean, do you have any new policy, like you don't ever let anybody off the hook if they weren't wearing the seatbelt, anything like that?
Well, no, we don't write policies like that. There's always discretion involved in any traffic stop, but our officers take this very seriously because they understand the ramifications if they're not doing their job. We understand, and we've seen it in practice. When we started about 3 years ago really concentrating on the seatbelt law, we wrote 30,000 citations a year. This year we're going to write 110,000 citations. So you can see the dramatic increase, about 250%. Now the key is what's happened. It's not just a number to us. It's not money in the bank. It's not anything like that. The key is what is the results of that effort. And the result is that we went from 54% of our fatalities being unrestrained to 47% this year. So that's a huge drop, and there are a lot of people walking around in Tennessee today alive because of the efforts of the Highway Patrol enforcing the seatbelt law.
Colonel, you mentioned that you looked at 4 other states. What are those states?
North Carolina was one of them, Maine was one of them, and I can't remember the other 2. I've got those on my computer, and I can get those to you at any time. But there was 4 states that had a very minimal increase in their fines, similar to what we're doing, and they saw an increase in their usage rate, and it drove their fatality rate down too at the same time.
Are you looking at anything else that those states are doing maybe to make improvements here in Tennessee?
Well, you know, we hope to have a bill before the legislature that will do away with one of the exemptions on the seatbelt law. There's currently an exemption for vehicles over 8,500 pounds gross vehicle weight, and we hope to get rid of that exemption. We're the only state in the country that has it, and that will put us in line with all the rest of the country. I'm assuming that the legislature put that exemption in there for farm vehicles at the time they passed the seatbelt law, but now those vehicles that were once known as farm vehicles, like your F-350 pickup trucks and your heavy SUVs, are now being driven to school by high school kids. So it's really changed the dynamics of what vehicles are being used in what situations, and we need to close up that exemption so we can save even more lives than what we're doing right now.
You stop for just a seatbelt violation?
Yes, in Tennessee it is a primary offense. All the officer has to do is witness that you're not wearing a seatbelt, and he can affect a traffic stop and write a citation. It's not that way in every state in the country, but it is in most of them.
When it comes to kids and seatbelts, is there an age cutoff?
Yeah, it's 9 years old. They have to be in the booster seat up until 9. There are some weight, 49 pounds. 4'9", yeah, height and weight exemptions, but they do have to be restrained somehow, either in a booster seat or once they get to the age limit or the height limit, then they have to go into a seatbelt.
And I will point out too that through the Governor's Highway Safety Office, TDOT, we're able to fund 90 fitting stations for CPS across the state. So we want to make sure that we continue to push child passenger safety all across the state, and there are 90 fitting stations. One other quick comment that I wanted to make on fines: even though we've raised our fine in Tennessee from $10 to $25, you're going to be amazed to know that we're way on the low end compared to the rest of the United States. If you look at other states, Washington State, which has virtually the same population that the state of Tennessee does, their seatbelt fine is $125, and their usage rate, coincidentally, is much higher. You know, when you start talking about wallet and pocketbook, sometimes it does make a difference in people making choices to wear a seatbelt.
Yeah, we see all over the country there's a direct correlation between the fine and the usage rate in driving. So people Some people say they vote with their pocketbook. I think they drive with their pocketbook too.
8,500 pounds. What is that? I mean,
That's a Lincoln Navigator or an F-350 pickup truck or a large GMC SUV. Those are the type of vehicles that are over 8,500 pounds.
surely people don't know that they can ride without a seatbelt.
I don't think most people do realize that. I didn't really want to talk about it, but you made me. All right.
Lucas made you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.